everyone. My name is Tina from Quantum Healing with Tina, and today we are here with Karen, and we are going to talk a little bit about trauma and how it
Yay. Sorry.
triggers.
Yes. Yay. It's my favorite topic. Glad you decided that.
Yeah, just picked it out of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
And how trauma gets stored in the body and comes out as triggers that we might not always recognize right away, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people think as of trauma as like traumatic memories, like memories that you would like think of in your brain.
Yeah, like you could actually recount an actual event.
Right. But it doesn't necessarily work like that. It's more of a feeling in the body that you don't always know what it is connected to unless you take a step back and really look at it and try to figure it out. It's just that like initial reaction, that emotional reaction, because we store our trauma as a trauma is an emotional event, right? It's not something that it's not a cognitive process. It's an emotional event, and we experience emotions within our body. So it would make sense that those traumas that we experience in life would be stuck in the body, and they come out when we get triggered.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they do. Yes, and they will show yourself, like they'll show itself in any way. And it'll, yeah, and when you think that it's not going to show up, it shows up. It's very sneaky like that. And so yeah, I can remember like a lot of times that they would sneak up on me, and I would get these feelings like when I was telling you, like rage, and I couldn't pinpoint like rationally what it was about.
Right.
So that's how they could come out. So it's like for me in recognizing the physical part, like I don't know how other people experience it, but for myself I feel it physically, like my body gets really hot. It's kind
Mm.
of like recognizing an anxiety attack. That's why I'm able to know when my body gets really hot or it feels, well, anxious. Then I could start to question what's going on. But
Right.
before that, I would stew in that kind of feeling and just kind of run away from it instead of having to deal with it. I would avoid it completely, go take a nap, and hope like when I wake up, it's going to be gone. Um, but now I know that when it comes, then I can start to ask myself the right questions. At least interview myself because I'm aware of myself and
You're
get the
shaking a
answers.
little bit. Your camera's shaking.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Um, yeah, I could ask myself the right questions. So I could interview myself. So I mean, like I'm actually conscious to a point where I don't get lost in the feeling, because I know a lot of people can get lost in already the storytelling of trying to justify why they're feeling or what they're feeling. And for me, I can actually sit back now instead of filling out a story, and I can ask myself questions of, or trying to identify it. Is there anything happening immediately right now? Um, like there's a whole list of questions. It really depends on what we're talking about. But yeah, I can really like bring myself to the present moment. And is it really something that's happening right now? Is it something that is like from the past that's coming up again? Usually triggers, yeah, they are from past things, but they are
Like an
happening, I
over,
guess, with a present moment. Yeah.
yeah, and you feel like an overreaction to what is actually happening in real time. Like
Right.
it's not just a reaction, it's an overreaction to what is actually happening.
a way of reaction because it's bringing out everything that you're so scared about to feel or whatever had traumatized you from the past. So anything that, like I always like talk about the jealousy, it's all linked. There's a whole link that brings you back to the initial trigger or the
Hmm.
traumatic experience rather.
And a lot of that, well, all of it really, most people are traumatized from their childhood. So that links back to the trauma of the child of being neglected or um, abused or emotionally manipulated or
Hmm.
just not getting that love that they needed.
Yeah, that's usually like where it falls back on. I mean, at least most of my triggers are stem back from abandonment as a child or child like neglect, like emotional neglect. So I can kind of like navigate myself when I can go back. I think it's really important, at least for me in my process, to ask all the aspects of myself that are involved. So that includes the ego, the inner child, and the body, because that's pretty much who I'm working with.
And then
And
your higher self, which knows the truth of all of this.
yeah, like at least in my experience right now, that I don't get too lost in it. Like I'll allow the emotions to come through and like I'll feel it. So at least that I'm giving it the space to free itself because you don't want that to get stuck in the body and not trying to judge yourself for it. Like that could be very difficult because especially for someone who's worked so hard into the healing process and then it does feel like a regression. Like, okay, why is that coming up again? Like it's so dumb. But, it's just a new wave, a new level. Um, and yeah, really important to just have compassion for yourself while you're going through it and understanding. And I remember like telling myself like loud and clear, like it's gonna pass. It's not, it's temporary. It's always temporary. So yeah, I just feel it. I think that's the most important thing. And that's the scariest part is to feel it.
Right. Because we're always running from our feelings.
Hmm.
And it's not always easy to sit in them and to allow them to be. Can you explain your process a little bit of your inner child body ego work?
Okay, well, I do have to run an interview. So, first thing that happens is that my body is the first response. So, when I feel that I'm not at homeostasis or at a stable point, I have to ask, like, what's happening in there? Am I actually sick? Like, an illness? If that's not the case, then I have to go further. So, and to navigate myself through, let's say if there's anxiety involved. Yesterday, for example, I had like a massive head cold and body pains. So I was thinking like, okay, I am sick, but there's probably emotions in there that were starting to come in because immediately this morning after I had released them last night, I felt immediate like so much better. It's just that I'm kind of congested here, but it's nothing close to where I couldn't get out of bed yesterday. So
Right.
there is it's all relative. So that's why I have to ask my body like if everything's all right. And then after that I do more interviewing. So if within the interview process is to listen to my thoughts that come in because if they're starting to become like storytelling and starting that I can either it's obviously either the ego or the inner child.
And what does the storytelling sound like?
Well, the storytelling is just it's telling a story. It's like, yeah, it's like trying to rationalize your fears or putting it in the forefront, everything that you are so insecure about, everything that you are trying to not show anybody. It's like we're all back on your face.
So
Everything
it's
that you
like,
judge yourself for, it's just like, here it is. Like let's look at that and you suck. Like it's really self-sabotaging, a lot of negative thought forms. um,
You're not
anything
good
you could
enough.
think of. No, you're not good enough. You're not worthy. Like whatever you're thinking is true. Like it's happening. You're gonna have nothing. You're gonna lose it all. It's and yeah, you're just kind of like in that, and part of yourself is like, oh my god, is that true? Because it's running and it's creating that the body fear, like you could feel the body start getting scared if you're really in tune with your body and recognizing that that's fear.
Hmm.
And yeah, so when I stepped back from that, because I could do that, thank God, I can really ask, well, why are you thinking that? Is that true? That's really it. Is what you're saying a fact? And usually it's no. So
Right.
in that case, it eases, but it's still there. The fear is still there. The body is still in distress. So it's still reacting to something that's in distress. Um, so in terms of like the jealousy, for example, it goes back to showing the insecurities about yourself, or what is the threat to you that's causing this jealousy. So I have to look at the threat, and why is there a threat? The illusion of threat that you're comparing yourself to from a false story, like you're the only one who's participating in this competition here.
Yeah.
So right, so already there, no one signed up for a race. It's just you thinking that someone is better than you. And so that insecurity comes in, because then that's obviously ego based, because you're putting yourself in, no, you're not one with everybody else. Now you're comparing yourself, you're ranking, and you're below, beneath. It's just not rational. And then from there it goes further to, why are you feeling insecure? What is the fear that is causing this insecurity? And it goes back to what is being taken away from you, or the threat of what is being taken away from you, and the preciousness of it. And for me, that's usually love. And so, and to think back that love was taken from me, or I felt that, it goes back to the child, because of the neglect, the emotional neglect, the abandonment. So it goes back to the inner child, the fear that something will be taken from you, especially like when you're in a sense, like in the perspective of a child, that you're there to be nurtured by people that you trust, and they're not present for it. So you're there to fend for yourself. So automatically you're in survival. So that's why the body is reacting to that. So that's how it all comes together. Like it's all old things that are just coming together in a ripple effect. And that's why like I'm able to go back and ask myself these questions. Like that's my process.
Right.
Make sense?
And yeah, well, it makes
Okay.
sense to me. But yeah, and it's the body that has that reaction again. It's not a rational thing that you can really think through. You really have to let your body feel it and then kind of figure out where it's coming from, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in that case, yeah, you have to go and ask the questions and not second guess what it is. Because, I mean, if you're really in tune with yourself, and it takes a lot of time to get to that point, because you have to ask a lot of questions. You have to be in the mode of being able to face it, sit with it, interview yourself. And it's really difficult to especially feel like the emotions involved in having to go through that pain again.
Mhm.
But it is a constant reminder of getting waves of consciousness in between, like awareness that it's not permanent. It's going to pass.
Right.
Like just let it pass through. And you really have to hold yourself like a lot of compassion in those moments where it's so painful,
Yeah.
knowing very well that it's going to pass. And the reason why it's coming up is because it has to pass.
Right.
It's just waiting to be acknowledged, just like everything else. And then after everything's done, or you figure out your puzzle piece that's, been keeping you in bed all day, and you say, you're just thankful, because when you come out of it, it's just, you feel better. It's just not, it's not holding you back. And, you just trust the process that, exactly what you say, it's going to be temporary, and I'm learning something new. It's just another wave of leveling up,
Level up. Yeah.
leveling up in your growth process. And yeah, it's also another way, I feel like it's just a random maintenance too,
Hmm.
for it to
Yeah.
just pop up, and just to show you yourself, and to maintain like those relationships that you have with yourself inside, not to
Hmm.
forget to check in, because sometimes I had to reassure the inner child that I'm not going anywhere, that
Right.
if any, like, that we don't have to rely on anything outside of us to feel that validation, and to really come together, that we are enough as we are. We're whole. God loves us. We're all part of the one great powerful Oz, and that we're okay. Like, we're
Yeah.
always going to be okay, and not to fret. Everything's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and then after that, I mean, very brief period of detox, it's like a detox,
Mm-hmm.
you have a period of expansion where
Yeah.
you're even lighter than ever before because you've let that go.
Yeah. You feel free. I like, right now, I feel really good, Well,
Yeah.
I mean, really good. I mean, compared to what it was, anything compared to what it was. It's just the body is released now. Like, I had to be able to give my body that knowing, and proof that it's safe. Like, hold compassion for it, and reassure it. Like, it's not, we're not in that situation again, and I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. Like, we're a
Right.
lot more stronger than we were, and we can fend for ourselves.
Yeah, because you're an adult now and
Mm-hmm.
you're not a child anymore, but the child still needs your love and is always really needs to be reassured that you're going to be there.
Yeah. And I'm not going to feed into that storyline. That's the thing. Like, I don't like to feed into that storyline too long, because the story can get really, really obnoxious, and really, like, dumb. Like, because
And who,
even as it's happening mentally, there's a part of me that's so split, where it's just like, are you really saying that right now? Like, are you serious? It's just so
right,
dumb to me. Like, it is, yeah, it's just irrational stuff that on another level, that it's complete bullshit,
right,
but you're just listening to it because it's happening within you.
right.
And it's like, I was even asking that to you yesterday. I'm like, do you even have to hold a boundary with yourself, or do I let it say what it needs to say unnecessarily, because I know the truth? Do I have to
Right,
say it? Does it have to be said within me? Because I don't
right,
want to hear it. It's not necessary, because I know it's bullshit.
right.
Yeah. So that's what I'm
So
trying to
when,
figure out.
right, and so when you say like I'm really good at hiding it, that's what I do. Like I put a cap on it right away. I don't, I try not to let it get away from me and end up in that story that just keeps going on repeat
Right.
because
I know the
it's,
story. Yeah,
yeah.
the story is terrible. I know you like hearing my stories, because they're dumb, like, and they're entertaining, but yeah, but like, again, like, it's really interesting for me to see myself split like that.
Right.
Where I do think that I have, like, well, I called them, what, the get along gang today. Like, they're all there. They're all part of
Yeah.
me, but it's like, to what point am I don't know. It's really difficult to I feel like a parent who's like with her children, and I'm just
Yeah,
listening to the ranting,
right.
or like your friends that just gossip about nothing. It's just like,
Right. Well, that's
yeah,
exactly what it's like because your higher self always holds that higher perspective. And we have those lower parts of ourselves that like to get away with things. The ego is great at that, and the inner child is, sad and
yeah. I
traumatized and
I
lost,
learned that my ego was covering for the inner child.
which is so funny.
Yes, I know. It was funny because I was just like, hello.
Well, tell us
I
about that.
well, I was in trance, because I was writing out, like I had a moment with one of my coworkers today, and then she really said it for me, like about what I was feeling all this time. Like she really just summed it up in the child within you is scared to lose the love, or that it's going to be taken away from you. And I
Right,
was,
but yesterday you didn't get that from her because why?
I didn't get that from her. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
I mean, she didn't say that to you, your inner
Jen?
child.
No,
No.
she didn't. In meditation, when I faced my inner child, because I went into meditation because I thought it was necessary to do so just to get myself to a peaceful state. And so what I saw in the meditation was like this purple rock, like Lion King, in a vast space of nothingness, really. And I saw myself, well, me. Um, I don't think that's clear, but the higher self of myself, my soul, the inner child, my body, and my ego, who were all like looking different because my inner child was who I was like when I was, I'll give or take, like maybe between 3 and 5 years old. Um, and then my body, which was this body, but my eyes were completely white.
Mm,
And then my ego, which had like, what my ego looks like.
yeah.
Yeah, like had the little Pikachu hat sideways, like super cool. And yeah, in the meditation, I asked, like, I mean, God came and asked us all to be one. So we were coming into the body because that is the vehicle that we're in this 3D. And when we all came in, like when I was the last one to come in, that's when the eyes came through the window to the soul. And God put this white light through us as one. And it was really like one. So when I looked up the inner child in that meditation, I didn't see anything. I asked, I was like, is everything okay? And she was just very quiet, reminded me of my daughter. Like, yes. And I was like, okay. But I didn't see anything in her. And after today, after I got that moment of clarity, like, okay, yes, this is exactly the problem. Like, I'm scared that love is going to be taken from me. I went into a trance state because I felt like I had to write a letter to her because I knew immediately, like when it comes to that love, love being taken from me, I know it's her. So I went into that trance state and wrote a letter. And in the letter, I was writing, like free writing and answering, getting her to answer the questions while I was writing. So I'm typing this simultaneously as I'm in it. And my ego pops in and I go, you weren't there. It wasn't you. And he was just like, sorry, mate. Like I was just covering for her because I felt bad. Like I took the fall for her.
Right, because you thought it was your ego having that problem.
Yes. It's usually my ego, but my ego and I have become friends since we've done that session, which is coming for another video. And,
Right, and
but
so you were confused because you're like, I've made friends with my ego. I don't know why he would be doing this
right.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yes.
And then so he
Yes.
came to you in trance today and said, I had to cover for her.
I had to cover for her because she was scared to tell you the truth. And so I had to go with her and reassure her, like, I don't want you to be scared to tell me anything that you feel. Like, I am you, and I'm going to tell you that you're safe.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes for you to feel whole again, or to understand that we are whole
Right.
together. Like, I'm never going to leave you. You're stuck with me. But yeah, it was just like that tame, obedient child, the one that did anything and everything to get that love. And that's why she couldn't tell me the truth, because it was like scared that of the consequence of speaking her truth, of what she needed or what she wanted.
A good girl.
The good girl. Not all good girls are, getting paid.
What?
No, but they're not getting what they want. You gotta embody, like, be the truth. Say it no matter what the consequence is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's how we need to learn as we are adults now. We need to learn how to
That we're not
give
gonna get
a
in
voice.
trouble.
Yeah, and we need to give a voice to our needs and what we need from people because we've been so programmed not to speak, not to speak what we want, not to speak what we need. And that's
Yeah,
so ingrained within us. And it's coming out of that and realizing that for other people to meet our needs, we need to be able to voice them, because people aren't mind readers.
right. And I
So,
feel like even for me to even voice my needs, like whatever I was saying to you today, I found it was just like, or like, is it even like, is it selfish of me to even ask? Because it's like I don't want to bother you and think that like that I don't deserve a space in your life, for example. Like, the worst case is that you say no. And I'm like, damn.
right.
But usually that's not the case. But it is, you're already jumping to the conclusion that it's going to be a no, or it's not worth it, or you're asking too much of that person.
Well, it's also the bodily reaction too, because you feel that fear of
Mm-hmm.
asking.
Yeah.
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 And really it's just like aversion therapy of, being faced with those things that are hard to do and doing it anyway. I really feel like that's how we get through our trauma is being faced with these things over and over again and making new choices every time,
Yeah.
and
That
not
was,
continuing to repeat the pattern, but to make new choices, even though it's hard, really hard.
yeah, I think like when we were talking about, was I even like aware that that was even going on? Like that thought pattern or whatever. But it really, I didn't. It was just more of a feeling that was coming through, and like feeling the body, just in that state of anxiety, and
Hmm.
not being able to put any words to that. I was kind of like assessing it, like as if I was a paramedic. Like, what's the most priority right now? Like, is it, like I need to suppress the body, because I thought it was just like I was having a flu or something. But like I said, like after I had just let it all out and talked about it and just cried for everything and anything that was happening, because I mean there was a lot of things that were going on in my, whatever happened yesterday, like showing me old things, all old traumas, I guess. Or because even my grandfather came through, my aunt came through, who have passed away, and those were like my devastating losses, those two. So I was just like, I go, what are you all here for? Like, it's not a good day.
Well, it's funny because when I remember when I said to you when you first started getting sick, I said you're detoxing, and you're like, no. Like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a slow process, because like when we did those those exercises there to
Oh,
release
yeah.
trauma.
Let's talk about those. So, if anybody needs to release trauma out there, you have to do these. There's a muscle called the psoas muscle, and it runs from the spine, the back of the
Like
spine,
all the lumbar spine, so everything in the lower back.
the lower back down through, what is those holes called in the hips?
I should know anatomy because this is my job.
through
Oh man. But anyway, there, and like all the way
through the
down
hip
through the
holes.
hip holes.
Yeah, and then they attach to the thigh bone, I
Mm.
believe. Um, but that is the psoas muscle. It's PSOAOS, psoas, a something
P
like that.
S O
PS,
A S. P S O
yeah,
A S.
PS,
SOAS? Psoas.
so PSOAS.
Yes.
So as, yes, psoas muscle is, they say it's the muscle of the soul, and that's where a lot of our trauma is stored, like in that actual muscle. And they have exercises to where you can fatigue certain muscle groups, especially in your legs and like glutes and lower back, and it will fatigue that muscle, and then you will have like an involuntary shaking response that will release that trauma, right?
Yes. Yes.
We tried that.
We tried that last Tuesday. No, that's not true. Yeah, Tuesday. Last Tuesday night. And
And that's
I'm not an exerciser, so I was already nervous about that because I was driving back home the next day, like a
and
nice
that's when you
7 hour
started
drive.
getting sick. That's when you started getting sick, like right
Yeah, the
after that.
next day.
Yeah.
The next day, I got home and I'm like, why am I so stuffy? Like, what's happening? But I thought it was just me
Like
being
you're
tired.
detoxing. Not detoxing.
No, I really just thought because I went from like warm weather over there to like cold weather here. It's very difficult now to like figure out because I always usually get sick around this time. Funnily enough, since I've healed myself, I'm not getting sick anymore. Mm-hmm. Because I set that intention, like I'm not getting sick anymore. I'm not aging anymore. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we did those
Well,
exercises,
that's
and it was a slow release. It all came to the conclusion yesterday when I was like crying and like having like the most dramatic like everything like the most dramatic conversations you could think of with your whoever was coming through. I think the ego pretending that it was it, like I was just like, thanks a lot, you liar, like for making me go through all that stuff again. Yeah, but it was all necessary. I mean, like I felt really good after I cried it out. And I think that's the one thing that I had suppressed all that time, just in general, is the emotions, allowing the crying to come through and not to be afraid to do that. I mean, I couldn't even cry in front of people. And now, like with you, we're just like, every time we see each other, it's just like a really
cry
bad,
fest.
like, cry fest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's from so many years of suppressing those feelings, and then they just, when you feel safe with someone and loved and supported, they just pour out. Yeah.
You know, seriously, I'm like, okay. Yeah, no, it's just that
Part
safe
of
space.
and part of our trauma, both of us, and probably many people, is not having that safe person to go to when
Right,
you're feeling those things. You just
right.
stuff it all down. That's what we did our whole lives. We, as tiny little girls, we stuffed it all down. And
And that's exactly what was reflected to me from the inner child. She
right.
was just showing it to me, and it was just incredible to see it again, very vividly. It was so sad, like because it makes me think like I don't want my daughter to go through that. To think that she would be in so much pain and not be able to tell me, or that I won't be enough for her to want to open up and tell me. That's like really one thing. Like I don't want her to go through that, to know that she feels alone, like that perception to develop into that storytelling that she was alone and she didn't have nobody. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that today too. Like a lot of our perception isn't necessarily the reality of the situation. Like if we were able to voice our needs, I'm sure that our loved ones would have been there for us, you know? But then why did we feel like we couldn't, you know?
We don't want to bother nobody. Because
Right,
that's how I'm feeling now. And I'm taking that as that's what it was before. Or as if my voice was not worth it to be heard.
right,
Because
right,
it wasn't so freely given to me, you know,
right,
that I had to work for it. And I didn't feel like I was worth it to work up to it and say something.
right.
Because it's always like one letdown after one letdown, and just domino effects that you just don't believe anymore.
Yeah,
It's very damaging.
yeah. And so I did when I did the trauma release exercises the first time, like I had a little quiver, but nothing like I had today when I did it again. It was like violent shaking in my legs and a little bit of tears, but like
It's
very
not
little.
like me.
No, it was you were like
Yeah, that was horrible. I didn't even know why.
well,
You
that's
know?
well,
Well, right.
you're not
Well, it comes
supposed to know
back.
why.
I know it comes back to the first point that you're saying. Like we think that it's supposed to be an actual event that you're supposed to remember, when it was really just the trauma stored in your body, no matter what and when that happened.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
the
need to
emotion.
know. Yeah. Yeah,
Right, you
I
don't
was
need.
just crying. It was horrible. But I
Yeah.
felt good. But I was
It
just
feels
like,
good.
why is this happening?
Well, I
Yeah.
was jealous. I wanted to cry. That's what I'm like.
I
I
was
wanted
like, she is stone cold. While my legs are like,
to... Yeah, I knew it was gonna take me a little bit because I've stored so much. But the second time I did it, it worked really well, and I cried like one little tear. So next time, I'm hoping to have a good cry.
just to say.
No. Just to say, no, it was like an actual feeling that came up, but then it didn't come out all the way. It stopped.
Mm-hmm. You're
Yeah.
like molten lava. Like it's just stuck in there.
Yeah. And you would think like after all this, I mean, it's almost been like a straight year of releasing trauma from my body that it would be flowing a little better. Although it is, I mean, I wouldn't have healed this much. I've healed so much this year. I think
Mm-hmm.
just from doing that energy work and releasing the trauma from my body.
Yeah, you did a lot of good work.
Yeah. Always more to do.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Always more to do. It's never gonna end.
Yeah.
But that was a really good exercise. We're gonna have to do that again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have to find
Looking
some more.
forward to it.
Can't wait.
Can't wait to do it. Can't wait to feel all that pain again. It's okay. I'm not again like it's the reassurance that it's all temporary, and because I mean like once you get that taste of healing, and I stress it so much, you do not have to suffer anymore. Like, you really don't. I mean, like, it's been so long since I felt those things. Like, oh, well over 3 years that I've felt exactly like all the slew of like number of emotions or whatever that I was feeling. And I was fine. Like after I had gone through that, like in the last 3 years, I haven't been bothered by them. So, like, of course, like when it comes out, you're just kind of bummed. But again, there's a greater knowing that it's there to serve a purpose, to come through again, to make more space for more love, for expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the spiritual journey, people.
Being human. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Letting yourself feel all those things and working through it. Yeah. It's it's quite a ride.
Yeah.
And but the freedom you feel is so worth it.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you're not suffering anymore. You're not bogged down by all of that heavy weight of depression and anxiety and
Mm-mm. It's nowhere
reaction, like
close.
that emotional reaction to everything, like you were saying in your video, which we'll tag down below. Um, yeah, that need to react to everything. You realize you don't have to react to anything that you don't want to react to.
You really don't. Everyone is expected, or they think that they're supposed to react to everything. Like, I remember,
unless,
like, with my coworkers, unless,
unless you have an unhealed trauma that comes up,
right.
right?
Right. And that would be a great indication for the people who don't know to sit with that. Like, when you actually have your outburst and you have that moment of clarity to reflect back at what just happened, you have to ask yourself, why did I react that way? Is it really necessary? Was that absolutely necessary? Or what is it trying to show me? And
Mm,
then you could, if you really do the introspection, you can link it all the way back to where it comes from.
right.
I love doing that. I mean, I could help people do that. I help people do it all the time. I link it all the
Yeah.
way back because I know where to go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
because you've done
We
it
should
all.
offer that as service.
Yeah. I forget what I was gonna say now. I don't know, I
Me
totally
too. I know I
lost.
had a point too, but it's okay. It's probably not important, meant to be.
Yeah, I don't know, it's gone.
Okay.
Mm, it's gone. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, I just encourage everybody to be kind to themselves and to allow whatever they're feeling to come through, not to resist it, not to run away from it, not to deny it, because then it does show up in your body.
That's what I wanted to say. When you
Aha,
feel
magic.
when you feel a reaction to something, instead of going outside of yourself and blaming or looking at that other person, you really need to turn inward and ask why that is happening, why you are having that reaction, because everyone outside of us is a reflection of us internally and what we need to look at.
Yeah, they're just reflecting that shadow inside. And we shouldn't be afraid of the shadows. Because if you go into a dark room and you have a flashlight, shadows turn to light. They will always, yeah, light always conquers all.
Yeah,
Mm,
because we are the light.
indeed.
We are the light.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are. I was like, so heal yourself, people, please. That is
Heal
as
yourself.
spiritual as you can get.
Yeah, and contact us. We can help you. We'll leave our information down below.
Yeah. We'll leave our services down there too.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Sending you lots of love and healing light. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace.